And we are live. The patriarchy is a myth. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'm really excited to dive into this topic. This is something I have been pondering. I've been ranting about to myself over and over and over again. I think about this a great deal, and I think I've figured it out. I think I've gotten down to the bottom of what's really happening right now. So I just want to start off on that basis that 100% the patriarchy in 2020 does not exist. It is a myth, and I'm trying to help you out now. See, now listen, now this may sound as if I'm saying that you haven't been through anything, that certain things haven't happened to you specifically because you're a woman. I'm simply saying now. So let's break this down. Let's go into the definition of what the patriarchy is on Google. So there are many definitions. The one that it is used typically in conversation whenever we refer to this sort of idea. So let's look this up. Define it. The Google defines patriarchy. First definition is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the male line. That's not usually what people talk about when they say the patriarchy, when they say the systematic, prejudice that women go through and all that stuff. Here's the definition of what they say usually in conversations when they say this. The patriarchy, as it is defined in Google, is a system of a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Yeah, that doesn't exist in 2020. Okay? Everything you think is wrong. What is actually happening right now is you are being manipulated by social media and big tech companies and advertisements and images and in the media and movies and TV shows. You're being manipulated into believing that every single thing that happens to you in America is because you're a woman, and that's simply not true. The same way I don't let people try to trick me into believing that every single thing that happens to me in America is because I'm black. Thankfully, I was raised under a different umbrella. I was raised to believe, you can literally do anything you can so long as you work at it, and that's good. I'm very happy. But this manipulation is very subtle, and it goes into it puts a male villain spin on literally every occurrence that a woman goes through. So, for example, I would like for people to stop laughing whenever I say mansplaining is a sexist term or toxic masculinity is a sexist term. We're gonna get all into this right now. So here's how they do it in terms of language. This is how they manipulate you. So, for example, mansplaining. So let's go into the definition of this. Mansplaining, as it is defined, mansplaining is. I've been in many arguments on the internet for which I've won all of them. So let me just start off by saying I don't respect anyone who uses the term mansplaining unironically in a statement. If you ever use the term mansplaining and you're being serious, I lose all respect for you, and I don't consider you a critical thinker at all. That's just what it is. You are incapable of thinking for yourself. You are incapable of making connections. You are incapable of thinking outside the box and going back to basics and going back to the fundamentals. You literally just saw a viral tweet, and then you were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So here's what it is. So mansplaining, as it is defined again in the dictionary. Let's look at the dictionary because words mean things, and these are words that everyone is using to shame people and quote unquote create social change. So mansplaining is, quote, the explanation of something by a man, typically to a woman, in a manner regarded as condescending or patronizing. So here we go. Literally, the word condescending and patronizing is in the definition of mansplaining. Mansplaining is literally just a sexist term for condescension or patronization. Just say those words. Why are you? There's absolutely nothing unique about a man being condescending to you in any way, shape, or form. And when I bring up this argument to people on social media, then the ubiquitous rebuttal to that is, okay, well, the reason why we use this term is because we live in a society where men are condescending to women because they are women, and because we live in a society that treats women as if they are dumb, as if they're hyper emotional and they're mercurial and shit like that, which is true. You're absolutely right. We do live in a society. But my question is, do you genuinely believe that we live in a society that has ever treated men as if they were smart? Do you really believe that men have never been portrayed to be dumb or goofy or incompetent in any context in the media, in news, in movies and TV shows? Do you genuinely believe that? So So if we live in a society that treats women as if they're dumb, and that is the basis for which they come, that's the basis for why men are condescending to women. Do you think women have never been condescending to men under that basis? Do you think we haven't? Do you think that since like the beginning of the pencil, there hasn't been movies, TV shows, books, poems, songs written that explain that men, by their very nature, are nothing more than retarded, psychopathic land rapists? So once again, when a man is condescending to another man, that's mansplaining. So when a woman is condescending to a man, or a woman is condescending to another woman, what the fuck is that? Oh, well, then it's womansplaining. Then it's just condescension. You're jumping hoops. You're jumping through hoops to make this a very, for some reason, politicized, identity politicized thing. Because we want to talk about inclusion. Condescension and patronizing is the most inclusive term that you can use. Anyone, it is ageless, it is sexless, it is genderless. Anyone can be condescending to anyone. So I don't understand why this is somehow a unique occurrence when a man is doing it to another, if we live in a society that portrays different people, no matter who is doing the portraying and who the person is being portrayed as I don't understand why this is somehow a unique situation. And when I get to this point in the argument, everybody either blocks me, they curse me out, or they ignore me. Because there is nothing absolutely you can say at the end of this. It is an ironclad argument, and it is you have no defense against this. Yes, we live in a society that treats women as if they're dumb. Yes, we live in a society that treats men as if they're dumb as well. So mansplaining in and of itself is a sexist term. You're putting a spin on something as if it is male exclusive or male dominant, which it is not. So let's get through. So that's mansplaining. That's out the way. Toxic masculinity. Here's another thing. So the behavior that you guys are talking about, when we talk about anything that I guarantee you, anything you describe as toxic masculinity, no matter who, no matter what quote unquote educated motherfucker, no matter what scientist, biologist who's done the research, no matter what article, fuck all that shit. This is the correct opinion. This is right. Anything you think is toxic masculinity is really just tribalism. Okay? The behaviors that you think are toxic, that you describe, I'm just saying toxic masculinity as a term is sexist, because you're painting certain behaviors as if it is male exclusive or as if it is male dominant. Okay? The idea that you have to, let's actually look up the definition. I don't know why I didn't do that immediately. One second. Toxic, hold on. Because I have it with my phone on me right now. Hold on. Define. Okay, well, there's no like literal definition or anything like that, but if you look it up, that's the first thing. So toxic masculinity is thus defined by adherence to traditional male gender roles that consequently stigmatize and limit the emotions boys and men may comfortably express while elevating other emotions such as anger. Correct. Now, well, let me just look it up. Define, because when you just type in the word, they give you something else. Defined. Okay, well, see, here's another way. See, it's now that was just if you just Google literally the words toxic masculinity. Now, if you define it, if you type in define toxic masculinity in Google, here's what comes up. The concept of toxic masculinity is used in academic and media discussions of masculinity to refer to certain cultural norms that are associated with harm to society and to men themselves. So let's get this out the way. Once again, toxic masculinity, the majority of the behaviors, right? So we're saying, okay, so a guy who punches you in the face because you wouldn't give him his phone number, being insecure for being perceived as gay, right? And whatever verbal or physical aggressive reactions that come after that. The idea that you have to look, act, and, think a certain way in order to be considered more than or less than a group is tribalism. And that is the consistently across all bases what I see toxic masculinity being defined under. So for example, in order to be considered more of a man, I have to look this way, I have to act this way, and I have to talk this way. I have to believe certain things. That is not masculine, nor is it male exclusive. For example, in my previous episode where I talked about my blackness. It happens all the time in black communities. There are certain parts of the country that I can go to right now where if I don't know how to play spades, I'm considered less black. I get these comments all the time from other Caucasians where I'm less black because I don't sag my pants. By the way, I blame black people. I blame you niggas for that bullshit, by the way. This whole you're less black because of this, and you're less, and he's more black because I've gotten that before from other black people, by the way. Oh, he's more black than you because, he knows all this shit about rap and you don't know anything about rap, and black people love gatekeeping blackness. I just want to point that out. I blame you niggas 100%. I put all the blame on you for that. So there's certain parts of the country, if I go to it right now and I don't know how to play spades, I'm less black. If I don't know certain rap songs, I'm also considered less black. Indians, a lot of the times, if you marry outside of your race, if you date outside of your race, they cut you off from the royalties and they consider you less Indian, and they completely separate you from the family. A lot of the times, the argument that comes back to me after this is, okay, well, there is no female equivalent of toxic. There is no female version of toxic masculinity. Have you motherfuckers forgotten Mean Girls? Amy Poehler and Tina Fey wrote that movie as a satirical take on how women often organize themselves in high school, which is literally a lot of the shit that you see in that movie is a female version of what you motherfuckers call toxic masculinity. It is tribalism. What you mean is tribalism. It is not toxic masculinity as a term is sexist. You're putting a male spin on something that happens all the time. Okay? A lot of gay people don't consider bisexuality as a real sexuality, right? So you have to look at or talk or behave a certain way in order for you to be considered more or less than in this group, right? So people don't consider bisexuality a real sexuality. You're not a part of the LGBTQ if you identify as bisexual. So what do we call that? We don't have a term for any of these other things. People just it goes into the cultural misandry that we're living in right now. So let's just get that out of the way, okay? So whatever, it happens across all boards. You're not a real fan of this musician unless you know this song. You're not a real da-da-da-da-da unless you being considered less than a part of a group or more than a part of a group because you don't subscribe to their ideals. A lot of people, by the way, don't even consider you a feminist if you're pro-life. They don't consider you a real woman if you're pro-life. What is that? So I don't understand the link between... Now, it doesn't matter. People are like, okay, well, there's a cultural context to it. It's because we lived in a patriarchy back then. And all that shit is like, well, no, it doesn't matter. Because we can sit here and say, okay, well, Caucasians are mainly responsible for racism and slavery and stuff like that. Like, they're the main ones who did it when it comes to numbers. We're talking about numbers, but we still call it racism. The belief that you are superior to another race simply because you are the other race, right? It doesn't matter what... It's a numberless term. It doesn't anywhere in the definition of racism or racist say that white people were the main ones to do it. It literally just says if you are a race and you think that your race is better than other races, that is racism. So the same thing with toxic masculinity. The idea that you have to act and behave and look a certain way to be considered a part of a group is not male exclusive at all. Groups do this all the time. It is called tribalism, where you're less Hispanic because of da-da-da-da-da, and it happens all the time. So let's get that out the way. Manspreading, we have testicles. There's nothing we can do about it. Once again, I don't respect you as a critical thinker. I don't respect you as even a human being if you literally say manspreading in an unironic context. If you legitimately believe that. Now, overall, let's get on to the patriarchy. The patriarchy now, as it is defined, as I said, a system of society and government which, men hold main power. Okay. And women are largely excluded from it. If we go into how men are systematically affected by certain things in the society, men are the highest victims of homicide. They are the highest. They have the highest suicide rate. They're the highest homelessness. All of that, right? The highest incarceration rates. We get raped more if we're talking about prison. All of these things are happening to men systematically every single year, and no one is doing anything about it. That does not translate to power. That is not power in any context. And when it comes to women being largely excluded from it, That is not women being largely excluded from anything. That is not power at all. And they were working on an experiment, by the way. They were, and people still believe that this is a real thing, which it was. They were working on an experiment. They were trying to figure out how to extract the bone marrow from women and plant it into the uterus, and then every baby after that will then now be female. They were trying to birth babies without men. So people want to say, well, the patriarchy is the government and, you know, men overwhelming the number, which is, I mean, sure, 100%, you're absolutely right about that. But my question is, this group of people that you say are in power, we can agree that the government funds lab research, they fund science, they fund research. Why would a group who you say is in dominant power, why the fuck would they fund an experiment that could potentially wipe them out of existence? Why would they do that? Another question would be, so if all these things are systematically happening to men and no one gives a fuck, how is that power? How does that translate to a society in which men are mainly in power if these things are happening and the men who are in power aren't doing anything about it? You expect me to believe that we live in a society that puts the values and the well-being of men over women? Yeah, no. Good luck with that. So no, the patriarchy doesn't exist. Your life is not hard because you're a woman. It's hard because you're a bitch. And then your argument's going to be, okay, well, women, all we have to do is we have to get into positions of power so we can help you. Bullshit. If that was really what your goal was in terms of equality, then you would be speaking on that alongside everything else regarding women's issues in society. You wouldn't just be one-noted with that. So if you genuinely cared about rape, then you would talk about how men are raped more in prisons than women are outside of prison, just on a regular day-to-day basis. You would talk about that, but you don't. So bullshit. This idea that all we need to fix problems, the idea that feminism or that what women are fighting for right now is equality for both genders is complete bullshit. Okay? Let's go outside of the United States. In Australia, that coffee shop that charged men more than women, that is not a patriarchy. That is a matriarchy. Or inside the U.S., Mrs. Monopoly. You really think that... So, Mrs. Monopoly, where men had to start like 5 paces behind every woman on the board, like, that is not a... They put this on shelves and they sold it to children. So, what in anything I just said translates to an advantage or power that men have over women? So if we live in a society where both men and women are affected by something, then that is not a patriarchy. A patriarchy would be a society in which men are mainly not really affected by anything, and if they are, they have the resources to... This does not translate to a society. We talk about divorce court, men not being able to see their... This does not translate to a society that puts the values of men and the emotional, spiritual health and well-being of men over women. That does not translate to a society in which that happens. So the patriarchy does not exist by definition. But this is something that people keep saying all the time. They keep using it. Well, this is why we say this. This is why we do this. This is why we believe this. Is because the patriarchy exists and because the patriarchy did all these things. And it's like you can make a case for that, before everything happened. I mean, before 2020. I'm talking about right now. People want to go into the past. I'm talking about, fuck all that. 2020, what's happening right now? Do we live in a patriarchy right now? We don't. Because all these things are happening to men every single year and no one's giving a fuck about it. We're normalizing abuse over and over and over again for men all the time. And I've gotten to this argument so many times on the internet, and I've won all of them. Because the majority of the people, I have yet to have this argument debunked or refuted in any way, shape, or form. The patriarchy simply just does not exist by definition. You can't tell me that we live in a society where men are in power and then all these things are happening to men over and over again, which you would think that they would be systematically affected by, would put them out of power, and they're not. So it just doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't exist. You're being manipulated by, big tech, by companies that say they care about you, which they don't. All of that, by the way, was over the second everybody started a GoFundMe for Jacob Blake and didn't believe Tara Reid's story, who was about Joe Biden. All of that immediately went out of the window because the same accounts on Instagram, Feminist, Time's Up, the Women's March, all of those accounts posted about Jacob Blake and all of that shit. And then before that and then after that, they were talking about all of this. All of it just needs to stop because all of it is over. It's over now. All of it is over. It's all over now. So that was mainly, this was going to be a short one. That's mainly what it is. The patriarchy doesn't exist. I need it all to stop. I've been in too many arguments. Too many arguments. Okay? Well, we're not saying that we're... Shut up. It doesn't exist. Okay? By definition, based on what we're talking about, it does not exist if we go into the definition of it. So... that's really what it is. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to get into, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any other arguments that I had. Yeah, there's not. I mean, again, not much, but So yeah. Mainly, yeah, it just doesn't, I mean, I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to get to in terms of, like, these words that people are using, mansplaining, toxic masculinity, and patriarchy, and all these words that people, all these male privilege, yeah, that's done. Male privilege, that's been debunked so many goddamn times, I can't even, do I even really need to get into it? The idea that I have an advantage over you simply because I'm a man, right? Which is 100% true, you're absolutely right, but then there are certain advantages I have over you because I'm black, and then other advantages that I have over you for whatever reason, but then there are advantages you have over me, so it levels out. The second I have one advantage that I can point out that you have over me because you're a woman, it's over now. It's over. So we all have advantages, but you putting male-specific spins on certain concepts that anyone and everyone can participate in, no matter what age or race they are, you putting a spin on it as if it's a male-exclusive issue is sexist. And I would really love it for people to stop laughing after I say this shit. Whenever I say toxic masculinity is a sexist term, people laugh their asses off on social media, and I would kind of like for it to stop. They laugh when they're dumb. They laugh when they're nervous. I am a king, and I will murder you in a goddamn argument, and I've done it many, many times before. Niggas know my record. They know exactly how I get down. I used to debate people on Twitter. I used to debate people on Twitter for a very long time back in Connecticut, okay? I have confirmed kills. I've murdered multiple people in an argument in one thread for days at once, and I've done this twice, okay? You have no idea who you're fucking with, okay? So bow down. It's over now. All of this shit is over now. Go in your Instagram profile and delete all of those social justice memes, all of these memes and all this shit. Them sharing the share posts, right? With the man is a luxury shit. All of it is done. All of it is over. It needs to stop. The second you all said, the second you all donated Jacob Blake's fund and all that shit, all of it immediately got blown to smithereens, as Caucasians say. Caucasians are saying that in cop movies. You blew your cover to the smithereens, whatever the fuck. I don't know what the fuck that is. This sounds like a fucking condiment. But all of it is over now. All of it is simply just done. Okay? It's time for you to take a back seat. It's time for you to stop It's time for you to stop saying whenever a guy in Hollywood gets accused of sexual assault that you knew the whole time and just didn't say anything about it. All of that is over now, and it's time for you to take a back seat, and it's time for you to stop positioning yourself as someone who actually cares about other women, because you don't, okay? No one who really cares about equality amongst the sexes would ever, I mean, it's the same thing, because we want to talk about, so like if we talk about like the red pill and shit, and how they're misogynist, and how the things that they say about women are misogynist because, well, people lie, people manipulate. Exactly. People are tribalistic, not just men. People are abusive, not just men. So the argument behind why we use these terms is, well, we're getting to the heart of the problem. No, you're not. No, you're not. We're getting to the heart of the problem. I'm like, okay, well, you can pick apart the reasons why people commit certain crimes, the reason why people say certain things. You can say, so for example, like male fragility. You mean insecurity? People are insecure. You're putting you're putting a male spin on something that is an ageless, genderless, and sexless term. Male fragility, fragile masculinity, all that bullshit. By the way, who are you comparing yourself to? There's nothing funnier than when people say that, when women say that to men. He's like, oh, he's fragile masculinity. He's his male insecurity, the fragile male ego. Compared to who? You realize that we were all raised to not ask you what your age is, how old you are. Back in the day, you weren't allowed to say, oh, well, does this dress make you look fat? The shit tests that they would employ on men all the time. Well, there was this right answer you're supposed to say to a woman, the wrong answer that you're supposed to say to a woman, and how the woman is always supposed to be happy in the relationship. Compared to who? Who is fragile? To women, apparently? Yeah, no, that is the most pot kettle bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. Male insecurity. Yeah, no. Because the majority of the shit that I'm saying right now, you can easily flip on women and be like, okay, well, female fragility, the fragile female ego, all of that shit it's simply just done now. And I need it to stop. Okay? None of it exists. So yeah, we're at 25 minutes. I'm going to end this in a minute. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to get to. But yeah, the fragile, I mean, you have absolutely no business calling men insecure when you have all this bullshit, when you're literally getting plastic surgery, when you're literally crying because you don't live up to the female standard that men typically want. I mean, you either care what we think or you don't. And the women on Instagram they never shut the fuck up about the whole, I don't need a man bullshit. The very blatant, to me personally unfunny shit, the misandry, all of it is just goes round and round and round, and I just can't do it anymore. I need it to stop. It just needs to end for a minute. Thank you. This is on short notice, but was there anything else I wanted to get to? No. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening. Follow me on Twitter, Shakespeare Josh. Follow me on Instagram at Josh A. Shakespeare. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, share. Follow me on Apple Music. I love making playlists. That is at Shakespeare Josh. Do all that. I have more content coming out soon. More sketches that are hilarious. We will be returning with the I'll Tell You Why You're Single segment with cycling comedians. Thank you for all the support on that. Can't wait to have everybody else on. And that should be it. Thank you.